Dean and Andy, great to have you guys back on here again. Lots to talk about, per usual here. Want to talk, of course, about the Griffins going into Game 3. We're going to be talking about the Tigers being one of the top teams in the majors so far through the first quarter or so of through the season. But we got to start off talking about the Detroit Pistons, who ultimately fell in Game 6 to the New York Knicks and will not be advancing in the NBA playoffs. Still an incredible season for them. At Game 6 also, probably one of the better games of the entire playoffs that we've seen so far in the NBA. I mean, just starting off, let's focus on Game 6. What did you guys kind of make of that? I mean, the Pistons and Knicks were neck and neck really towards the end there, and it really just came up to who could make the biggest shot, and it was Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, such a tough ending for the Pistons, right? You know, they had that lead. Malik Beasley really kept them in the game in the first half by making 6 3-pointers. Once again, they found themselves down in the first half. They did a great job of coming back, and, I think Tim Hardaway Jr. makes a big shot there late in the fourth, and you think, all right, we're going to go to Game 7, and Pistons found a way to lose. Like we've talked about before, I think it's just that, it's a young team. It's a growing pains that you kind of go through, and you can see that in the NBA playoffs right now. A lot of your younger, up-and-coming teams are losing games late to more experienced teams. And, obviously Jalen Brunson made some clutch shots down the stretch, and he did it all series. And so, for me, disappointing end for the Pistons, but such a bright future ahead of them.
Yeah, Dean, I like that analysis because that's exactly how I said the series would go. But everybody thought I was the bad guy for saying that. But
we'll give you credit. We'll give you credit for
I'll give credit where credit's due.
We're not happy about it. No.
Should have been Pistons in 6, but Andy was right. It was Knicks in 6.
I'm not necessarily happy about it either. But yeah, I think that was the difference. You just said it. It really came down to the experience of some of those guys at the end of the game. When you got Jalen Brunson with 37 points and the crowd's booing him. For one, I'm never a fan of that. If you're the team that's going against a guy like that, if you boo him, every athlete in the world wants that when they're on the road. That just amps him up and makes him play even better. And it showed in that game. He played very, very well. And when he's got 37 points, he's going for his 40th in that moment. I think everybody knew when they had the ball with 20 seconds that it was probably going to go in. But the Pistons did have a foul to give. I think a lot of people have not been talking about that either. They probably could have fouled him and made it a much more difficult shot to get that much space. But really sucked for Asar Thompson there, too, because the 2 possessions before that, he had probably one of the best defensive stands against Brunson that you'll see the entire playoffs. Brunson was able to get the space in the next one. So, yeah, it came down to another close finish. I think every single game this series was that way. We kind of talked about how we thought it would be that way. I think you could even make the argument that the Pistons were the better team for probably more quarters in this series than the Knicks.
Agreed.
And still they weren't able to get the job done. It came down to some close buckets at the end, but a lot of people are also talking about how Cade passed the ball off at the end to Beasley, and Beasley obviously dropped it and they didn't get a shot off. Cade was getting double, triple teamed at the end of a lot of these games when he had the chance to shoot the game tying bucket or the one to give him the lead or whatever. I have no problem with him passing it off there. No. Beasley's got to catch the ball and make that shot. He's been making that shot all season and when he's been hot. And he obviously, first half, you can see what Malik Beasley can do for you when he's going off. He scored 18 points and hit that shot at the buzzer that kind of gave him all the momentum they needed going into the second half to keep that lead and build the lead. But, yeah, in the end, it was the perfect example of somebody that has a lot of experience in Jalen Brunson making the clutch shot and Malik Beasley being a 6-man coming off the bench, not being able to hang on to the ball and kind of making a key mistake there at the end that cost him.
And obviously not the ending that a lot of Pistons fans wanted to see, but still an amazing season. We touched on it last week a little bit, just where this team was last year to where they are now. You're just two wins away from beating the New York Knicks, who just beat the Boston Celtics in Game 1 of that series. If we could kind of collapse the entire season into one thing, what was that big takeaway that you guys had from this entire season, the 2024-2025 season for the Detroit Pistons?
I think I talked about it earlier. The Pistons, there weren't a lot of expectations. You come off a 14-win season, and you had a lot of same guys back. But I think I talked about a couple weeks ago, Cade Cunningham being healthy, and then bringing in some of the the veterans, the Beasleys and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Tobias Harris, bringing him back. I think those guys had such an impact on getting the young guys to play together, play team ball. Their defense was so much better. Because of it, Thompson stepped up, obviously, became one of the better defenders in the league. And, I think it was just a microcosm of just being able to play together, being healthy, having the veteran guys helping the younger guys, and they were able to make a push. And, all this was done without Jaden Ivey. Like how much of a difference could he have made in this playoff series or, whatever the case may be. So like I said, expectations are going to be higher next year because of what the Pistons did. And I think the Pistons gained a lot of respect this year from a lot of teams, including the Knicks.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you just said. I think the biggest takeaway you get from this year is not only did they, have a completely different season with the wins, but you also kind of found out a lot about this team. That's why I think it was so key for them to play a playoff series that went 6 games like that, because we talked about how they could easily fall flat in their face after losing that game 4 in the way they did with the foul call and everything. They were able to get the win and send that to a game 6. I think that's huge. But I think what you did kind of learn too is, correct me if you guys think I'm wrong, but Cade is a star right now. I don't think he's quite a superstar yet.
No.
And I think what you kind of found out with Malik Beasley being pretty much your best 3-point shooter, the Pistons struggled from 3 in this series with Hardaway only shooting 30% and Beasley shooting 33%. I think they need to go get a guy this offseason that can consistently shoot the 3-pointer, because that really killed him in the series. Like, their defense was good enough to keep them in every game, and like we said, it kind of felt like at times they were the better team. I think if they had somebody that consistently shot around the 40% mark, 38, whatever, from 3, I think it would have made that much more of a difference when you see how many points they lost these games by. Yeah. So I think what you really found out throughout the season was maybe a 6-man that is really good is good for your bench and coming off the bench, but I think they need somebody out there next season on the floor to start with Cade that can consistently knock down a 3-point shot.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, let's stay on that topic, because that was going to be my next question was, of course, you've got a star in Cade Cunningham. You were missing 2 guys, one in Jaden Ivey for virtually the entire season, and then Isaiah Stewart did not play in the playoffs. So, you're missing 2 guys that do get big minutes for you. But going into next season, I mean, what are you thinking the Pistons should be on the wish list for the Detroit Pistons kind of going in there? What would you kind of like to see them do maybe in the offseason, maybe in the draft, free agency, maybe even just some kind of player development? I mean, what is like the one thing that you hope you kind of see the Pistons make that turnaround and go into the next season?
Well, I think that'll be the biggest decision that they kind of have to deal with is Jaden Ivey, who Dean brought up. He didn't even play this season. You kind of have to decide, is that going to be the guy that provides enough when he comes back, or is it going to be somebody else? There's a lot of people out there that talk about trading him for somebody with maybe a pick or 2. It's all kind of a culture thing. It's like that's where the difficult decisions sometimes come in when you have these teams that come up together. And like you just talked about Isaiah Stewart, he wasn't playing in the playoffs. He's such a big part of their team, and he wasn't able to play. I think he would have been a tone setter in the playoffs. But I feel like underneath they have enough. I like Tobias Harris, and I really really liked what he showed in the playoffs. So I feel like they're okay there. Again, I'm all about the 3-point shooter, and that's where for me it's going to be if they can keep Jaden Ivey and don't have to get rid of him to get a bona fide star in the league that can shoot the 3 and give him maybe a little bit more. I would like to see him kind of shop that market, because I think they need to find somebody that can fulfill that need that they don't have. And Jaden Ivey, he's a good slasher and good to get into the bucket, and he was shooting a pretty high percentage from 3 this year. He was getting better, but he's only taking 3 or 4 a game. In today's NBA, they need somebody that's going to shoot a 3-pointer 10 times a game and make 4 to 5 of them. So that's what I'm looking for. That's probably the biggest thing on my wish list.
Yeah, to me, my wish list, and I think this could happen, but you're gonna have to give up some young talent, is Devin Booker.
Yeah,
I think getting Devin Booker to come to Detroit would be great. Obviously, I coached at Granville for a long time, and I was actually JV coach at Granville for girls when Devin Booker played there as a freshman on the JV boys team. So I actually got to watch Devin Booker play in high school, which was kind of cool. Now we see what he's done in his career. But he grew up here, and so I think I would love to have a Devin Booker on the team. But like I said, you'd have to give up some young talent. But if they stayed pat with this good core of young guys, I'd be okay with that too, as long as you're just improving in the off season, to get better for next season.
No, Devin clearly loves where he's from. If you look at all his Instagram,
Pistons,
all the time he's always wearing Red Wing stuff in the games.
Yep.
Every time I see him in a Tigers hat,
Yeah,
my thought immediately goes, God, imagine him in a
fan.
Pistons uniform.
Yeah, he went to the Lions
He
game.
wore a Griffins jersey. He wore a Griffins jersey in that one
exactly.
picture that was going viral.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he likes it here. I guess the question I would have for you guys, because obviously Devin Booker is a name that a lot of people are talking about, how would his game complement with Cade? I mean, do you guys like that, or does it feel like they're both too ball dominant for it to work?
I mean, I hesitate to say that it would be a match made in heaven. I do think it could work, because I do think you have 2 guys that are ball dominant but don't necessarily they want to win. They understand what it's going to take to win. Devin Booker making it to an NBA Finals with the Suns. But you look at what happened with the Suns this year with Bradley Beal, with Kevin Durant. It brings up a little bit of hesitation, but I mean, even just from like a fan perspective, seeing a guy who grew up in Grand Rapids, seeing him back home in Michigan playing for the Pistons, I mean, that's stuff movies are made out of, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Dean, you have a
Yeah.
sentiment on that?
I think they can coexist. You know,
Yeah.
I really do. You know, there's no big three for the Pistons right now, but you could have, you know, kind of a big two,
Yeah.
right? And I think they could coexist and they could kind of feed off of each other. And you know, I think could be a good marriage.
Cade averaged 25, 8, and 8 in these playoffs. I don't think he'd have a problem being more a guy that distributes the ball more. I really don't. So
Oh, no.
I think it would work very well with Devin Booker if they were able to get him, because I think Cade is the kind of guy that just wants to win. Like he's wanted to do that since he's got here. I think he wants to accomplish that more than anything else in his career, and I think he realizes he's probably going to be here for a while. So
Right.
I think any star he could get to come here and play next to him, I think he would take it, and I think Devin would be a great option.
I think if you're the front office, you kind of listen to Cade as
Yeah.
your star and
Yeah.
see who he maybe
Now,
is kind of looking at for sure.
Let's all take this into account too. For us, it's really easy to say, "Oh, trade Jaden Ivey and 2 draft picks," and no
Yeah.
problem. The Suns will give them to us.
Yeah.
Like the Suns might not like that.
Well, the Suns
So,
need a whole lot of
they
help,
do, they
honestly,
do.
so maybe they would take that.
I mean, they may sell off, and that's
Yeah.
why I think if you're the Pistons, you're hoping for, because then you can probably catch them where you can not give up everything to get them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So,
Right, yeah. Well, time will tell. We'll definitely keep an eye on that. But again, great season for the Pistons. Sad the way it ended, but definitely looking forward to next year. And another team that is maybe on the brink of possibly being out this season is the Grand Rapids Griffins. We got to talk about that. Game 2 loss at Van Andel Arena to the Texas Stars. They're now down 0-2, which means that they need to win the final 3 games of the season of this round just to make it out into the next round of the playoffs. I mean, what has been really wrong with this team? Has it been more so the Griffins kind of not executing, or the Stars really just dominating on all aspects of the game?
the Stars are definitely a dominant team in the AHL. Actually, a couple years ago, when the Stars did win the Stanley Cup, the Texas Stars, they won the Calder Cup. So they're just they know how to do it as an organization. They have a lot of depth, and it's definitely been showing. Even with the Griffins getting a few guys back, the problem with the Griffins has been their defense all season. It really doesn't matter who you have in that. I was calling for Jack Campbell. I still think, as you can see right now coming across your screen, he had a goal where there was about 3 rebounds shoved into his pads right there. Then they opened the game with the penalty. Kind of cost him right out the gate. And you can't fall behind against a team like Texas 2-0 to start the game and expect to win. I like the energy the Griffins played with in game 2. They came out clearly a lot like they wanted to win. They were playing a lot harder and a lot faster. They were getting up in guys' faces, trying to do everything you can to change the momentum. But yeah, Texas just moves the puck so well. And there was a lot of penalties in that game either way. The Griffins' power play has been one of the worst in the league all year. They did score on one of them on a rebound to get their first goal, but they had 5 and only scored once. So, yeah, it's just kind of been the same story for them all year, and it's showing right now against a good team. We'll see if they're able to at least steal one in Game 3. You're going to get them faster this time. We've talked about all the time off. It would be Friday, and then it would be Saturday, and then Monday. So it's a 3 games and 4 day stretch if they were able to take it to Game 5. But yeah, I think it's the same problems that have bugged them all year. And right now, this organization's lacking a lot of depth at defense. They have a lot of they started all rookies back there in this game. So it showed in that one for sure.
Yeah, you know, talking to Dan Watson after the game, he really talks about the turnovers, right? Like, you can't give a really good team opportunities like that because they're going to capitalize. And a lot of that, the early in the first period, was just kind of turning over the puck and giving them, you know, an opportunity to score. And you know, like I said, they took advantage of it. So the slow starts haven't been good. You know, there's no way to gain momentum when you are down 2-0, you're down 3-0, now you're down 4-0, right? It's an uphill climb. And it's something the Griffins encountered in both games. And, you know, something has to change going into Game 3. Now they take it 1 game at a time, right? You can't win the whole series on Friday. You have to kind of just take it each game at a time and, you know, see what happens. Anything can happen, and we all know that. So for the Griffins, you know, like, whoever's going to be in the net, you know, they have to be consistent. But I think getting early leads and just kind of gaining some momentum and confidence is going to really help this team.
Well, obviously, the big story being the fact that the Griffins have been outscored 8-2 in those 2 games, so it's not even like it's even been necessarily close in those first 2 games. Going into Game 3, I mean, I want us to be kind of realistic. Obviously, we want to see the Griffins succeed, but I mean, is this series kind of over? Do you even expect them to maybe get a win here or there? I mean, it's not only that they have to win all 3 games; they have to win all 3 games on the road too.
Yeah, no, I mean, realistically, yeah, the season's probably over. But I mean, just to put it brutally honest, yeah, I mean, that's the way it goes. But I don't think these guys are going to think like that. I think they have a lot of pride, and I don't think anybody goes into a series, no matter what level you're playing at, wanting to get swept. So I feel like they're going to come out there and play their hardest on Friday and try to give it everything they have. But it's just hard to imagine them beating a team like Texas with how good they've been all season. They're 10-3 against the Griffins now in the year. The Griffins actually do have 2 wins on the road against them. They only beat them once at home. So maybe that's something to lean on. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be a good environment. They have a lot of people in that organization that like hockey, so be a good crowd. But I think what Dean said is the most important thing, and it's pretty obvious they can't start down again. This team has done much better this year. They've been able to get the first goal on the board, and their defense just has to do something to keep legitimate chances away from Texas for scoring, because Texas just had too many easy chances in front of the net to score.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's a daunting task, to ask a team to go on the road and win 3 straight games. So yeah, I do think this team in this series is over. I do think they're going to show some pride and maybe win game 3, but winning those next 2 games is going to be extremely difficult. So yeah, I'd say sorry, Griffins fans. I think the season's going to be over in Texas.
they had the best start in their franchise's history to start the year. So when they began the season, they had a lot of talent. This group was playing super together because they had a lot of the same guys back from last year. But the Red Wings pulled up a lot of guys to fill a lot of positions when they had injuries, and obviously, as Dylan Larkin told us, they didn't sign anybody at the deadline. So, all that kind of stuff played a factor. And the Griffins, they had a lot of games where they only had 1 or 2 guys on the bench that were scratches. So, they've been playing without a lot of depth for a long time, and it's tough to win that way, for sure. They've been putting some pretty bad positions to win, which, that's how it works sometimes at the lower levels of sports. But, yeah, it kind of sucks because the way they started the year, it felt like they could be one of the best teams in the AHL, maybe even win it all. But, yeah, that's where we're at now, so.
Right. Well, you got to take it one game at a time, so we're definitely looking forward to Game 3 on Friday. But for Game 3, what is one thing you want to see? Let's take the final score out of the equation. What do you hope to see out of this team with their back against the wall going into Game 3?
Effort. I want to see the same thing that they came out with in Game 2. I loved the energy and the way they played, because it looked like they kind of fell back on their butt to start Game 1. They just didn't really come out with any energy to start that game. And they got down because of it and got down quick. I felt like in this game, even though they fell behind 2-0, it didn't feel like they weren't giving effort. They took a penalty to go 4-on-3 to start the game and whatever, but they were showing energy. They were playing with more speed. They got some good chances. Got to credit Texas's goaltending too. Has just been phenomenal. The first goal they got in the series was on a rebound on a power play. So that also makes it tough, and it's super discouraging to not see the puck go to the back of the net. No matter what the results are with that, you can't control what the other goalie's going to do and how well he's going to play. I think they just need to keep giving themselves scoring chances, keep trying, and not just go away in this game. Don't fall behind 3-0 in the first period right away. Show some effort, try to win a game. It all helps in the end to gain more playoff experience. So,
right. Yep, I'd have to agree. The effort has to be throughout the whole lineup, right? It can't be 2 or 3 guys. Dan Watson talked about, the usual suspects kind of gave effort and gave energy, but the whole team has to kind of do that. So, a consistent effort by the Griffins is something that's going to hopefully, lead them to a victory in Game 3. And then, like I said, who knows after that.
Well, we've been kind of negative so far to kick off today's show, obviously, with the Pistons losing, the Griffins not looking good so far. But it's not all bad news here in the state of Michigan sports-wise. The Detroit Tigers, have the best record currently in the American League. They've been playing great through the first quarter or so into the season. This is for a lot of fans, good news to see, especially after how things ended last year with getting into the playoffs, kind of building up a little momentum, and now looking pretty good to start off this year.
Yeah, they've kind of continued what they did last year, right? In the postseason, that late run in August and September, and playing extremely well. Their bullpen's been solid. They're getting great starting pitching, and their bats have come alive. 47 home runs already for the Tigers this year, which is something that in the past they've kind of lacked that power. But they go into, where'd they go? Anaheim? Was it?
Yep. Anaheim was the most recent series.
And just knocking the ball all over the place. So no Tigers hitter is averaging more, or doesn't have a 300 average or better. Kerry Carpenter is at 295 right now, last time I checked. So, they don't have that one guy who's really producing, but they're getting consistency throughout the lineup, and their bats have been doing really well.
I do believe Javi's over 300, but he hasn't registered enough at bats to
Okay.
go with the league. But hey,
Semantics.
That's all you need to
Right.
say right there.
Right.
Is Javi Baez is hitting over 300. I think he
Yeah.
deserves a lot of credit. I've hated on him more than again, if you watch this guy the past 3 years, I don't know. I mean, if you asked him like how you would feel about it, I'm sure he would tell you he wasn't producing either for what he was getting paid. But it's been incredible to see. He's been a huge part of it. Torkelson's been a part of it. He's only hitting 175 now over his last 21 games, but he's still hitting home runs and hitting with power, and he's still hitting the fastball. So just a lot of it just seems like with the way this team is going, somebody else can do it every night. I think Zach McKinstry, my old Chippewa, he's been a great story with how he's been able to produce and be a key part in this lineup. It just seems like the hitting coaches that they brought in this year have really changed things because they have a plan every single night when they go out there to play, which is just super impressive, and it works because no matter what comes of it, the Tigers are going to make you throw them strikes. They take a lot of walks, they get on base, and it could be what do we see in Anaheim? A couple of games were late, they were losing. It doesn't matter. 8th and 9th inning, they're going to face another pitcher. They have another plan for that guy, and it seems like at some point one of those plans works to be able to get him over the hump. And then you combine the pitching for the Tigers. It's just been phenomenal. I mean, any of these starters that go out there every day that they put out, they don't even have Alex Cobb, their key signing they had in the offseason. They've been pitching Cater Montero to kind of give Jackson Jobe a little bit of a break every now and again. It's just every night somebody else is throwing good. Jack Flaherty's ran into a little bit of problems here in the 6th inning recently, but overall you just really can't find a gripe with this team right now. And even when they lose the game, it seems like they find a way to come back and win another one. They win series. I mean, I'm sure it's like the part of me that's watched the Tigers for the last 10 years is saying they're going to come out in Colorado and somehow get swept. But that actually won't happen with this team. Like they are good. This is a large sample size now. And I think it's a team that everybody in the league's taking notice of, and they deserve the respect they're getting.
Absolutely. And Andy, you mentioned Javi Baez. I mean, but is he the player that's maybe surprised you the most? Or I guess, in general, who's been the one Tiger that you would say maybe is going into the year you didn't think was going to be as successful at the plate or on the field as maybe you thought, but it's kind of surprised you to kick off this year?
Yeah, it's Javier Baez. It was Spencer Torkelson early on in the season, kind of just because of all the average he was hitting for and everything else. He's kind of fallen back down to earth a little bit more, but I think if you were to tell anybody that Javi be hitting around 300 in May, they probably would have told you were crazy.
Right.
Especially with the swing rate. He's making better decisions. I think the super thing that's slept on that people aren't talking about is the signing of Gleyber Torres, because I think that did a lot for Javi Baez. I'm not in the room for any of their conversations or anything, but I would imagine because I knew that they were friends kind of going into this, he probably had some talks to them about how to maybe just be a better hitter. And Javi didn't have any home runs going into this last road trip. He was just hitting for average, getting a lot of key doubles, hitting with runners in scoring position. Well, the Tigers have an approach through their entire system that's kind of like contact first. Let the hits come first, and the power will come with it. He's the same thing with Cole Keith right now. Trey Sweeney, they both have hit their home run spurt. I think it's the same thing for Javi. For the first time in his career, he's not trying to hit the cover off the ball every single time he swings, and it looks like he's trying to hit the ball, and now he has 3 home runs in his last 4 games. So it seems like it's kind of a trend right now. It's Cole Keith. Everybody was talking about he might have to get sent down when they get some of these guys like Matt Vierling, who hit a home run in his first game in Toledo, his first at bat. So he'll be coming back soon. The talk is maybe they were going to have to send Cole Keith, not with the way he's hitting right now. So it's hard to say who to send down at this point. That's where it's at. I would have probably told you that maybe they obviously DFA'd Kenta Maeda, which was a pretty big decision with how much money he was owed. Maybe you would have thought they would have had to start thinking about sending Javi Baez or something down. Not a chance with the way he's playing right now, and he's played good in center field too. So, yeah, he's definitely been the biggest surprise for me.
Dean, kind of on that same vein, I mean, who's surprised you the most this year?
I'm going to go with a couple of pitchers, Reese Olson, and Jackson Jobe. Reese kind of struggled in his first start of the year, but he's been really, really good. And, I don't think we knew what to expect from Jackson Jobe. Obviously, barely played there in the postseason last year, but, he's pitched really well too, giving them good, strong innings, not allowing a lot of hits. Jobe's walk rate's been up a little bit. He's had a few more too many walks probably for Tigers' liking, but, he's been consistent. He's getting guys out. He's getting strikeouts. So, those two guys I think have been a big factor in their early season success for the Tigers. And, to go with Skubal, and obviously Andy said, Jack Flaherty's been struggling a little bit, but, the Tigers have a really good starting pitching rotation, and, and that back end's really good too. So, I'm excited for, rest of the season, what's to come.
While I agree with you with Jackson Jobe being one of the biggest surprises, I would challenge it and say Casey Mize. Like I did not, I don't think anybody knew what to kind of expect because he's been so hittable the past few years. What he's been able to do with an ERA under 4, and the other night when he gave up 4 runs, even he still found a way to go 7 innings, and his swing rate is completely different this year. The splitter has been playing off of the slider that he's added to his arsenal. If he can pitch like this the rest of the season, I mean, it's like all of a sudden you got that 1-1 pick back that I don't think anybody expected. And I mean, Torkelson has been like, he was a 1-1 as well, or a first overall pick, like that kind of guy. He's kind of fallen back down to at least what he is. I mean, if he can give you 35 home runs, you're going to be happy with it. Casey Mize is pitching like he could be an all-star right now with how good he's pitching. Right. So I think that's been incredible to me that he's been able to do that.
Well, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun, and obviously, after we talk about this, it very well could be a different story. But I mean, we're about a quarter of the way through the season so far. Are they the favorites maybe in the American League? I mean, it's up for debate, obviously.
No, their run differential is plus 62. It's the best in baseball. Chicago was kind of switching off them, so I'm not sure if it is anymore. They did get beat 14-5 last night, and I didn't see what the score was today. But either way, the Tigers are right there at the top of the run differential department. That's proof when you get this far into the season. They've played enough games to where it's not just like a small sample size. Especially going back to last year, I think their winning percentages are almost 700. I mean, they're at a rate that if you were to go back to last year into this year, which I'm a firm believer that momentum can carry over, they would be playing at a 100-win pace right now through like 70, 80 games. They are that good, and they definitely can compete for a World Series. I mean, if this pitching rotation stays healthy, I think that's the biggest key. They're going to hit. At this point, it doesn't matter who's in that lineup. It seems that they're going to hit. Obviously, they're going to run into their slumps and stuff, but their pitching rotation is just so good. If they can keep these guys healthy with the bullpen they have, it's hard to imagine they're not one of the better teams in not just the American League, but in baseball, and could win it all. Obviously, the Yankees have very big payroll, and they have a lot of players in that team that are good, but, I mean, the Tigers have already proven they took 2 out of 3 from them earlier this season. They can compete with anybody with that pitching.
Yeah, I have to agree with Andy. They definitely can compete. In the American League, and wouldn't be surprised if they make a postseason run. Like you said, they have all the tools, they have depth at every position. They have young guys. Their payrolls relatively small, and they've made all the right moves, right, without having to go get a high paying guy, right? They're sticking with the young guys, and they're actually showing up for them right now. So they can compete. I think they'll win the AL Central, and then, we'll see what happens. But, like you said, we're a quarter of the way through, so hopefully they can just continue to be consistent and, kind of find their way through and, make City Detroit, happy.
It probably won't happen because, water sometimes doesn't find its level for Cleveland, but they have a negative run differential right now, and they're still somehow only a game and a half behind the Tigers. So I don't know how that's happening, but they seem to find a way to be good every year. So they'll definitely push them, but it's hard to imagine this team isn't going to be right there at the end of the season for not just the AL Central, but playing for the World Series too.
And they've been a lot of fun to watch too. It's like one thing to see the wins rack up, but like genuinely have been fun checking out Tigers games this year. So, all right, well, Dean and Andy, we know you guys are busy, so we're going to let you guys go, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks for stopping by.